Souls-like games, Soulsborne titles, Dark Souls 3-like, whatever you wanna call it. I'm sure you've heard these terms many times in the past, because it represents probably one of the most popular game genres in today's day and age. The term Souls-like is attributed to any game that's sort of similar to FromSoftware's masterpieces, the original Soulsborne titles. We're talking about games like Dark Souls 1, 2, 3, Elden Ring, Bloodborne, Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, and many more. These are absolute masterpieces that I'm sure so many of you guys have played. Over the years, many game companies have given their shot at trying to recreate what a Souls game is based on what FromSoftware has done. And in today's video, we're taking a look at the top 10 best Souls-like games that aren't made by FromSoftware, but are still so damn good. After doing a ton of research, looking at Reddits, forums, YouTube videos, whatever you can think of, I managed to put up this list of 10 games that I'm sure any Souls game veteran and any FromSoftware fan will love. So get some snacks, lay back, and let's dive right in. Alright, so to kick things off, the number 10 game on our list is Mortal Shell. This game was made by 15 people only, and it's basically a love letter to FromSoftware, because visual-wise, you get the Dark Souls 3 and Bloodborne vibes, super dark type atmosphere, something we all love in a Souls-like game. But what sets Mortal Shell apart from a normal Souls-like game is the fact that you start off as a literal white corpse that's super weak and can barely take any hits, and while you play, you have to find throughout the map different bodies that you can possess, and those bodies act as classes. For example, you can find the Dead Knight and you have to possess him and you have the abilities of a knight, or you can find some other more fast-paced classes, more interesting depending on your playstyle, and this gets rid of the pain to upgrade your attributes and stats, which makes Mortal Shell a whole lot simpler and easier. But that's what this game's all about, man. If you're looking for a shorter Souls-like game, this game's between 15 and 20 hours, maybe even less. But if you're looking for a shorter Souls-like game with still challenging boss fights and its own unique twists even in combat that I will not spoil, definitely give this game a try. Even if you're a Souls game veteran that's played all the FromSoftware games, you'll still have a blast with Mortal Shell, because as similar as it is to something like Dark Souls 3, it is unique and it keeps things interesting. Next up on our list are both of the Remnant games, Remnant from the Ashes and the newest release Remnant 2, also known as Dark Souls 3 with guns. At least that's what people have been calling it since it came out, and it's partially true. Remnant is not your typical Souls-like game. It's way more futuristic. Yes, after the long 1.5 hour, maybe 2 hour introduction with the boring cutscenes and stuff, you get to pick a class and there's some cool options, and then you actually go out in the open world and you realize why this game is called Dark Souls 3 with guns. This game is freaking difficult. But there's one thing, at least this is the conclusion I came to after playing Remnant 2. If you're somebody who has played the Remnant 1 or you love Remnant 1, you're definitely gonna love Remnant 2. There's a specific type of audience that enjoy these games. If you're a Souls veteran or if you're a FromSoftware fan, it's not a guarantee that you're gonna enjoy any of the Remnant games. And here's why. The game is way more futuristic, as I said, and because of that, the combat sort of takes a different approach that might throw a Souls player off, at least at the start. The learning curve with Remnant, especially if you've never played one and if you're coming from a Souls game where you literally mostly fight sword to sword or close range combat, it's gonna be a big learning curve if you're coming from that, like me. But it's nothing you can't get used to, and not to mention Remnant 2 is way more loot based. The game can even get more grindier than a Souls game, in the sense that it's super rewarding because you need to go from planet to planet, and that's where the Souls type aspect is there. That's what a lot of Souls players will love, that sense of mystery, diving into unknown and not knowing what awaits you. Could be a different boss, different types of enemies, and different types of environments and all that. That's what I love about Remnant 2, and that's what you will love, and it is 100% worth giving a shot. Next up on our list here is another super unique Souls-like game, and I'm sure many of you know it, The Surge 2. Actually, scratch that. The Surge 1 and 2, both of the Surge games are amazing. RPGs with a lot of Souls-like, I mean, I wouldn't say a lot of Souls-like elements, but they are Souls-like just because of how challenging they are. The best aspect about The Surge is definitely the combat, and it's also the hardest one because a normal enemy can kill you easily if you don't pay attention. The whole point of The Surge is basically you go out on missions, you collect souls, I mean not souls, loot, I apologize. You collect loot, and with that loot you upgrade your robot man slash human, depending on whatever you want to make. And there's a little thing called the limb system, which allows you to upgrade certain robotic parts, and that plays a vital role in the combat. Depending on which aspect of your character you've upgraded the most, a fight can go either way, since you can attack an enemy's multiple body parts, and that allows for such cool animations, I mean kill animations. There's so many of them, and honestly, the main focus of the Surge is obviously the grindy aspect. You go in, you get loot, you upgrade, but you can find yourself literally just attacking enemies just to see how cool the kill animations look like. The Surge games are a must-play for any Souls game fan who's willing to put that grind in and go through a learning curve in combat, so you should definitely get your hands on this one. Next up on our list, which comes at number 7, is Steel Rising. This game gives off major Bloodborne vibes. As you can see, it is very similar to Bloodborne visually and in terms of like where you're at. Steel Rising is set in France, sort of like this apocalyptic dark world, but instead of humans you fight animatronics. They like to call it automats. The game is great. That's like what's unique about it, sort of, and I feel like that should be enough for many people to get them in the door and try it out. The combat is a little stiff. It's based a lot on aggressive play, which is expected, and it also bases a lot on elemental damage. So you'll have a bunch of enemies throwing other ice and fire at you, like that's a big thing in this game. Also, story-wise, it gives you a lot more context than I'd say Bloodborne or any of the other FromSoftware games, so if you're into that, good. Unlike Bloodborne, the progression of this game is not that linear. I mean, not linear at all, because after you get past the introduction, you can go on multiple paths and venture out in different directions. The bosses in this game are not as difficult as they seem to be. They're not easy, because, as I said, the combat is based on aggression, because the dodge window is actually quite difficult to time. You really gotta dodge the last second, so you should really be aggressive. But the bosses are not as fast-paced and as intimidating as they appear at first sight. There's obviously a lot of other aspects to Steel Rising that I'm not gonna mention, but if you're looking for something Bloodborne-ish with its unique twist, it'll certainly set you out on an adventure, and personally, I think it's certainly worth a try. If you love Bloodborne, I feel like you will enjoy Steel Rising. Number 6 on our list here is a more unique Souls-like game that goes by the name of, I'm sure many of you guys know it, Blasphemous. The art style and combat for this game are everything. As you can see, it's a 2D Souls-like game, but that does not mean it's less fun or less engaging. Blasphemous is a damn blast. Blasphemous is more than just another Metroidvania. The best thing about this game being definitely the combat, because the animations when you kill an enemy are so well made and the parrying system is so satisfying. Not to mention the story, you also get a lot of context when you first start playing, unlike some other Souls games. Overall, there's not much to say about this game. If you're looking for a fun, challenging, unique and beautiful Souls-like game that will certainly set you up for an adventure, give Blasphemous a shot. You will be surprised. Trust me. So number 5 on our list is Code Vein. If Dark Souls and Genshin Impact had a baby, it would be Code Vein. And let me tell you why. Code Vein is basically an anime, cartoony Genshin Impact looking like Souls game that gives you actually a lot more story than any other Dark Souls game, trust me. It's sort of like an RPG story type, but because of the Souls-like elements like graces, I forgot what they're called in that game, super I mean, okay, I may be exaggerating a little bit, tough bosses, pretty difficult enemies even if you're at the start. The combat takes a little bit of getting used to, and so does the class system. them. Like, besides attributes in this game, you have like different classes, and certain weapons can be played better with certain classes, and you have like weapon powers. I mean, what am I saying? It's like a Souls game, but it's done a little bit differently. At least for me, it was a little confusing at first. Like, it was fun to learn, don't get me wrong, it was actually really fun to learn. If you are into like the cartoony anime Genshin Impact looking like video games, and you really wanted a Souls-like game with these type of graphics, Code Vein is for you. But if you've never played Genshin Impact and you want to give Code Vein a shot, definitely. Not to mention the character creation really blew me away. I really loved how you create your character. I'm not gonna spoil anything. I'm probably gonna put some character creation gameplay right now so you guys can see. Number 4 on the list is none other than Hollow Knight. Before I even say anything, this is probably one of the best Souls-like games, and if you haven't tried it out, you definitely should. Hollow Knight is a 2D Metroidvania, or whatever you call it, type game. It's super deep in lore and exploration, and this is the best thing about this game. The base game can take maybe 30 hours, but if you follow the main campaign only, you probably have seen so little of what the game has to offer. Hollow Knight basically lets you learn how to play the game yourself by exploring different options. The game gets deeper and deeper. There's so many paths you can go onto, and every direction there's a different boss, many of which are optional, but they don't feel optional, you know? The best thing about Hollow Knight is probably that there's so much content, but it's not thrown in your face, you know? The game lets you discover how you want to discover it. The truth is, everybody who played Hollow Knight probably played it differently, because there is so many ways to go about this game. The combat is satisfying, and the game is very difficult. It's a challenging 2D Metroidvania game that is so worth it to play. If you haven't already, pick Hollow Knight up. You will dump so many hours in this game. The story is also such a W. Pick this one up, you won't regret it. This is a no-brainer. And numero 3 on the list is none other than Nioh 2. I don't think this is a big surprise that I included Nioh at the top of this list. This is as Souls-like as it gets, ladies and gentlemen. Nioh 2 is its own thing. It's a very long Souls-like game. You're basically playing as a mercenary that's also half demon. For me, when I first started playing, Nioh 2 is basically if Ghost of Tsushima and Sekiro Shadows Die Twice had a baby. I know I do the baby comparisons a lot, but that's the easiest way I can tell y'all what the games are about. Why is it like Ghost of Tsushima? Nioh 2 has a stance-based system in combat. Combat is very difficult to learn, especially if you're coming from Dark Souls and Elden Ring. The combat is a tiny bit different, and by tiny bit I mean a lot, because stances allow your weapons to be so much more versatile, but it also makes the game a lot harder. Not to mention the key system, whatever it's, I always forget. I don't really play Nioh that much, guys. There's like a system in this game that automatically restores your stamina mid-fight if you press the button on a perfect time. Remind me in the comments down below. Key something, I forgot, but the more you learn it, the better and more satisfying it gets. You find every Souls-like aspect in the game. Shrines that are just like in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. A weapon selection as well at the start, which is really cool. If you're looking for a game to get super immersed into and learn something new, give Nioh 2 a shot. It's very challenging, but learning the game and experimenting is very worth it. Number 2 on this list may come as a surprise to a lot of you guys, but I put Thymesia, whatever you wanna call it. I still don't know how to pronounce this game. I'll call it Thymesia, whatever. Let me know in the comments down below how you pronounce it. But this game is very Souls-like. When it came out, it went straight under the radar for so many people and so many Souls game fans. But the truth is, this game's actually good. It's simple. It's not the next big thing. It's never going to be the next big thing, but that doesn't mean it's not a fun Souls game. Thymesia has every aspect of a Souls game you'd expect, and it is literally as closest to Bloodborne as other game companies will get. It's set in this dark, mysterious, post-apocalyptic city, and you're playing as a guy with amnesia. The combat is the highlight, as always. They did a really good job. I love how fast-paced the combat is. It's satisfying, maybe maybe a little stiff, depends on your taste, but the unique thing about Thymesia is the health bar. Besides a normal white health bar, enemies also have a wound green health bar. You have to empty both health bars when killing an enemy, and if you wait too long on an enemy, the green health bar will fill up. So this game allows you basically to keep engaged with the fight. The bosses in Thymesia are so cool. Some of the boss designs I actually really liked. Look, it's a simple game, man, and you can't go wrong when buying it. If you're a Souls game fan, if you liked Bloodborne, you will have a blast with Thymesia. And the number one best Souls-like game, in my opinion, is Lies of P. Everybody knows Lies of P. Unlike Thymesia, this game did not go under the radar, and there's good reason for that. And if I said that Thymesia is the closest one to Bloodborne, scratch that. Because Lies of P takes it to a whole new level. In Lies of P, you play as a doll, and the whole lore is actually super cool, and the more you dive into it, the better it gets. The game is really fun. The boss designs are on point, not easy at all to fight, mind you. I really love the atmosphere of Lies of P. There's a lot to talk about this game, guys. Point is, Lies of P is super Souls-like. I mean, obviously, right? But at the same time, there's some fresh new things that will keep the Souls players going. Lies of P is without a doubt the best Souls-like game we have right now, and not picking it up would be a no-brainer. I feel like if you are a FromSoftware fan, if you like the challenge of a Souls game and you want to try something else out, the mechanics in Lies of P are a little different. It's got some twists and turns here and there that I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna spoil. Pick it up. You will not regret it, or at least try the demo. It's free. Give it a shot, and if you like the demo, pick up the full game. With that being said, guys, here is the top 10 best Souls-like games that are not made by FromSoftware but are still such a damn blast to play. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did enjoy watching as much as I enjoyed making this video, feel free to drop a like. Let me know in the comments down below what game would you like to see maybe on the channel, maybe a separate review of the game where we talk more about it. Let me know what your favorite Souls-like game is as well. I'm curious to see your guys' thoughts, and I respond to every one of y'all. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and see you in the next one. Peace!